Hey everybody, Vince Giordano, Juniata County Library. Ask us anything. The question today is, could you review a book you read recently? I sure can. I just finished this book, super pumped, that goes over the history of Uber, and it talks a lot about the co-founder and CEO, Travis Kalanick. Now, full disclosure, on a very part-time basis, I am an Uber driver, and I also drive for Lyft. Usually once or twice a month, if I'm in Harrisburg or State College, I'll turn the app on, and I have fun doing it. I came into this book not having any allegiance one way or the other, not being totally supportive of Uber, but not being totally against it. I wanted to learn more about what I'd heard in the news, and I did that. The book goes a lot into the life and upbringing of Travis Kalanick, including the companies that he tried to start before Uber, as well as his personal outlook on life. And it also goes a lot into VCs, or what's called venture capitalists. This company started in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. Venture capitalists are usually the place that startups get money and funding. And then over time, as the company builds, they have governing boards and they have stock values with voting power. It talked a lot about that, which I knew very little about. It then, as the app was created, the app expanded into different parts of the world, and it talked about the competition and resistance that Uber had. In each country, like India, for example, or some South American countries, there are already ride-sharing or ride-hailing apps. Before reading this, all I thought was just Uber and Lyft. But then in American cities such as Seattle and Philadelphia, Uber faced a lot of resistance from local governments, taxi unions, and at first they were actually arresting Uber drivers. If Travis saw a law or a structure that he thought was corrupt or preventing companies or newcomers into a new system, he had no problem getting around it and using illegal means at times. Then, as it went on, it talked a lot about the company structure, which at times was very, very thin, had little to no, HR department, which caused a lot of problems down the road. And they really idolized Travis as the CEO. Then, to go a little bit deeper, the workplace issues that we've heard in the news, a lot of issues of sexism or lack of female representation. One of the stories was a team of engineers at Uber completed a project, and a reward from their higher-ups was they were going to get these nice leather jackets. And there was only 6 women on the team compared to about 20 or 30 men. And they ended up only getting the men the jackets and not the women, because they told the women they couldn't get a good enough bulk rate. And this is a company that's worth, I think, between $40 and $50 billion. Then to address that, they had an all-hands-on-deck meeting where they said, to try to deal with this, we're now going to have a new female on our board of trustees. And that moment was ruined by one of their current board members getting up and saying, unannounced, this wasn't planned, that now that there was another woman on the board, there would be more talking at the meetings, which was very embarrassing. And then finally, the pressure to be just a workaholic really came from the top down. The CEO allowed staff to stay, and he actually paid and had a caterer come each night to serve dinner. But he said that dinner was served at 8:15, and you had to wait until 8:15 p.m. to get the dinner. The downfall ultimately came in a few ways for the company. It started with issues of price surging, which, if you haven't heard of that, it's if a lot of people want rides from Uber or Lyft. To attract drivers to get there, they raise the prices, which is enticing to drivers, but also it costs more to the passengers. And this happened during a couple crises or emergencies throughout the world, such as with refugees or more vulnerable populations, and that just wasn't a good PR look. Then after the jacket situation, a female employee left the company and did a blog post telling about that, which was very scathing and damaging. The company burned through a lot of money with different projects with very little oversight. And then eventually the venture capitalists and Arianna Huffington, who was one of their trustees at Uber, started to work together to try to rein in Travis Kalanick, which he did not appreciate at all. The book ends with the company Uber going public and talking about the valuation of the company, which it turned out to be not as valuable publicly as they expected. At times, I felt like the author inserted himself a bit too much. He was covering Uber for the New York Times at the time, so there were certain parts of the book where he would insert himself or kind of have portions where it was him in it, and that was kind of awkward. And I also found a few typos, and there was even one point where they were trying to get Oprah Winfrey to be on their board of trustees, and they ultimately didn't, but the author referred to her later as Whitney instead of Winfrey. I would give this book a 3 out of 5. The storytelling was decent. A lot of the narrative could probably be found online, but it really gets into the nuts and bolts and a lot of the details and the granular details and the anecdotes, and also gives a lot of educational information about venture capitalism and corporate companies. So this book was given to me as a gift, so unfortunately we don't have it at the library. But I will see you tomorrow, and ask us anything.